7 ruthless lessons that will kill your average life. Average is comfortable. Average is familiar. Average knows your name, knows your habits, knows exactly which excuses you reach for when the alarm goes off and the work is waiting. Average has been with you so long that it no longer feels like a choice. It feels like who you are. But it is not who you are. It is who you settled for. And today that ends. What you are about to hear is not designed to make you feel good. It is not designed to validate where you are or reassure you that everything is fine. Because everything is not fine if you are living below what you are capable of. These are 7 ruthless lessons. Ruthless because the truth does not negotiate. Ruthless because average does not die easily. Ruthless because the version of you that is capable of something extraordinary has been waiting long enough. If you are ready to kill your average life and build something real, stay with me until the end. Because what follows might be the most important thing you have ever allowed yourself to hear. Lesson 1. Your comfort zone is not protecting you. It is shrinking you. There is a reason the comfort zone feels safe. It is familiar. It is predictable. Inside it, you know the rules. You know what to expect. You know who you are in relation to the world around you. And your nervous system, wired for survival rather than greatness, interprets that familiarity as safety. But here is what your nervous system is not telling you. The comfort zone is not static. It does not just stay the same size while you live inside it. It shrinks. Every time you choose comfort over growth, the boundary of what feels possible to you contracts a little more. Every time you avoid a difficult conversation, a risk, a challenge, or an unknown, you teach yourself that you are someone who cannot handle those things. And over time, that teaching becomes your reality. The Stoics understood this deeply. They practiced voluntary discomfort not as punishment but as expansion. Every time you choose the harder thing, you push the boundary of your capacity outward. You prove to yourself that you are capable of more than you thought. And that proof compounds. It builds on itself. Until one day the things that used to terrify you become things you move through without a second thought. Your comfort zone has been lying to you. It told you it was keeping you safe. What it was actually doing was keeping you small. And small is the most dangerous place you can live because small does not feel like danger. It feels like home. Leave it. Not all at once. Not with some dramatic gesture. But today. In one small way. Do the thing that makes you slightly uncomfortable. Have the conversation you have been avoiding. Start the thing you have been postponing. Say yes to something that scares you appropriately. And then do it again tomorrow. And again the day after that. Until the expansion becomes your new normal and the comfort zone that used to contain you cannot even remember your name. Lesson 2. The people around you are either lifting you or limiting you. There is no neutral. This is one of the most uncomfortable truths in all of human psychology. We want to believe that the people in our lives are just there. That they exist alongside us without fundamentally shaping who we are and what we become. We want to believe that we can be surrounded by people who are going nowhere and still somehow arrive somewhere extraordinary ourselves. We cannot. The research is unambiguous. The people you spend the most time with shape your beliefs, your standards, your expectations of yourself, and your vision of what is possible. Not through dramatic speeches or direct influence. Through something far more subtle and far more powerful. Through what they normalize. Through what they tolerate. Through what they celebrate and what they dismiss. Through the invisible standard that exists in every group that says this is what people like us do and this is what people like us do not do. If the people around you normalize mediocrity, mediocrity becomes your baseline. If they normalize excuses, excuses become your language. If they normalize settling, settling becomes your expectation. And the terrifying thing is that this happens so gradually, so naturally, so completely beneath the level of conscious awareness that most people never even realize it is happening. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you become what you give your attention to. But it goes deeper than attention. You become what you are surrounded by. You become the standard of the environment you choose to inhabit. And choosing your environment is one of the most consequential decisions you will ever make. This does not mean you abandon everyone who is not performing at the level you aspire to. Loyalty matters. History matters. Love matters. But it does mean you are ruthlessly honest with yourself about whose voice is shaping your inner world. Whose standards are you unconsciously adopting? Whose limitations are becoming your limitations? Whose ceiling is becoming your ceiling? Seek out people who are building something. People who hold themselves to a standard that makes you want to raise yours. People who tell you the truth even when it is uncomfortable. People who challenge you to be better not because they are competing with you, but because they genuinely believe in what you are capable of. Those people are rare. They are worth finding. And they will change the trajectory of your life more than any book, any strategy, or any insight ever could. Lesson 3. Discipline is the bridge between the life you have and the life you want. And you have to build it yourself. Nobody is coming to make you disciplined. Nobody is coming to wake you up, organize your day, hold you accountable, and ensure that you do what you said you were going to do. The entire responsibility for that belongs to you. And until you accept that responsibility completely, without reservation, without blame, and without waiting for external conditions to make it easier, nothing will fundamentally change. This is the lesson that most people hear and agree with intellectually while simultaneously continuing to wait for something outside themselves to create the structure they need. They wait for motivation. They wait for the right moment. They wait for a sign that it is time to start. And they wait and they wait and they wait while their potential quietly expires. Discipline is not a feeling. This cannot be said enough. It is not something you wake up with on certain mornings and lack on others. It is a practice, a skill, a muscle that develops through use and atrophies through neglect. And like every other muscle, it does not care how you feel when you show up to train it. It only cares that you show up. The Stoics built their entire philosophy around this understanding. They created daily rituals, morning reflections, evening reviews, voluntary practices of discomfort, all designed to ensure that their behavior was never dependent on how they felt in a given moment. They understood that feelings are weather. They change constantly, unpredictably, and without regard for your goals. But your values, your commitments, your identity as a person who does what they say they will do, those are the climate. And you choose the climate. Build your discipline the same way you build anything worth having. One day at a time. One choice at a time. One kept promise to yourself at a time. Start small enough that failure is not an option. Do one thing today that you committed to doing regardless of how you feel. And then do it again tomorrow. The bridge gets built one plank at a time. But it gets built. And when it is done, it connects you to everything you have been standing on the other side of, looking at, and believing you could never reach. Lesson 4. Your story about why you cannot is the only thing actually stopping you. Every person living an average life has a story. A very detailed, very convincing, very well-rehearsed story about why their circumstances are different. Why the rules that apply to other people do not quite apply to them. Why what is possible for someone else is not quite possible for them given everything they have been through, everything they are dealing with, and everything that has been stacked against them. And here is the most ruthless thing I will say today. That story is real. The circumstances are real. The obstacles are real. The pain that created the narrative is real. None of that is being dismissed. But the story is still a prison. And you built it, not because you are weak, but because your brain, in its extraordinary effort to protect you from further pain and further failure, constructed a narrative that makes staying where you are feel reasonable. Feel justified. Feel like the only logical response to an unfair world. And the longer you have been telling that story, the more solid the walls have become, and the more invisible the door. Epictetus was born into slavery. He had no rights, no freedom, no material possessions, and no certainty of survival. And he became one of the most influential philosophers in human history. Not because his circumstances were favorable, because he refused to allow his circumstances to define the boundaries of his inner world. He understood that what happens to you and what you do with what happens to you are two completely different things. And only one of them is yours to control. Your story explains your past. It does not have to determine your future. The moment you are willing to examine it honestly, to see where it serves you and where it limits you, you reclaim the authorship of your own life. And an authored life, a life lived from conscious choice rather than unconscious narrative, is the only life that can become something extraordinary. What is your story? Say it out loud. And then ask yourself honestly whether it is true or whether it is just familiar. Whether it is fact or whether it is the most comfortable explanation for why you have not yet become who you know you are capable of being. Lesson 5. Silence and solitude are not weaknesses. They are where your real power lives. The modern world is terrified of silence. It fills every gap with noise. Every commute, every meal, every moment of potential stillness is immediately occupied by a podcast, a playlist, a scroll through content that was designed to hold attention rather than develop it. And as a result, most people have lost access to the one resource that all genuine greatness has always been built from: their own mind. The Stoics were obsessed with solitude, not because they were antisocial or disconnected from the world, but because they understood something that the noise economy does not want you to know. The answers you are looking for are not outside you. The clarity you are chasing through constant consumption is not available in more content. It is available in less, in stillness, in the willingness to sit with yourself long enough to hear what you actually think, feel, want, and believe beneath all the noise. Marcus Aurelius wrote his Meditations in solitude, not for publication, not for an audience, for himself, as a private practice of honest self-examination that allowed him to govern an empire with a clarity that still inspires people 2,000 years later. He understood that the quality of his outer decisions was entirely dependent on the quality of his inner life. And the inner life requires cultivation. It requires quiet. It requires time given to nothing but honest reflection. What do you actually want? Not what you think you should want. Not what the people around you want for you. Not what looks impressive or sounds right. What do you actually, genuinely, deeply want from this one life you have been given? Most people cannot answer that question because they have never given themselves the silence required to hear the answer. Give yourself that silence. Every day. Even 10 minutes. Put down everything that is competing for your attention and sit with yourself honestly. What you discover in that silence will be more valuable than anything the noise could ever give you. Lesson 6. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is the curriculum. The fear of failure is the single greatest destroyer of human potential on Earth. Greater than lack of resources. Greater than lack of opportunity. Greater than any external obstacle or systemic barrier. Because fear of failure does not just stop you from achieving things. It stops you from attempting them. And a life defined by what you never attempted is the most average life of all. Here is the truth about failure that average thinking will never allow you to accept. Every person who has built something extraordinary failed. Repeatedly. Significantly. In ways that were visible and humiliating and costly. Not despite their success, but as a direct precursor to it. Failure was not the detour on the way to their destination. It was the road itself. It was the very mechanism through which they developed the skills, the resilience, the self-knowledge, and the refined understanding of their craft that made the eventual success not just possible but inevitable. The Stoics called this "the obstacle is the way," not a motivational phrase, a literal description of how growth works. The thing standing between you and the life you want is not in the way. It is the way. The challenge, the setback, the failure, the rejection, the moment when everything falls apart and you have to decide who you are in relation to difficulty, that moment is the classroom. And what you learn in it cannot be learned anywhere else. Stop treating failure as evidence that you are not cut out for something. Start treating it as information. What did this teach you? What would you do differently? What did you discover about yourself in the moment of not succeeding that you could not have discovered any other way? Those questions transform failure from an ending into a beginning. And a life where every setback is a beginning is a life that never actually stops moving forward. Fail faster. Fail more. Fail in the direction of your ambitions rather than the direction of your fears. Because the only failure that is truly final is the failure to try. Lesson 7. The version of you that is capable of everything you want already exists. You just have to stop betraying it. This is the lesson that contains all the others. The one that, if you truly internalize it, makes everything else fall into place. You already know who you need to be. You already know what you need to do. You already know which habits to build and which to release, which relationships to invest in and which to walk away from, which risks to take and which fears to stop negotiating with. You know. You have always known. The knowledge is not the gap. The gap is the daily betrayal of that knowledge. Every time you choose the comfortable option when you know the courageous one is what is required, you betray the version of you that is capable of more. Every time you stay silent when you know you should speak, every time you scroll when you know you should create, every time you settle when you know you should hold your standard, you make a small deposit into the account of your average life and a small withdrawal from the account of the extraordinary one. Those deposits add up. Over days they become habits. Over months they become patterns. Over years they become character. And character, once solidified, is the hardest thing in the world to change. Not because change is impossible, but because the character you built through 10,000 small betrayals has become so familiar that it feels like truth. But here is the other side of that truth. Every time you choose the harder thing, every time you honor the commitment when it would be easier to break it, every time you act like the person you're trying to become before you feel like that person, you make a deposit into the extraordinary account. And those deposits compound too. Over days they become evidence. Over months they become confidence. Over years they become the unshakable identity of someone who has proven to themselves, through consistent action, that they are not average. That they never were. The version of you that is capable of everything you want is not some distant future possibility. It is a present choice. It is the choice you make the next time comfort and growth are standing side by side and you have to decide which one you are loyal to. It is the choice you make when the alarm goes off and your body argues for more time in the familiar. It is the choice you make in the small moments that nobody else will ever see or celebrate or even notice. Those moments are your life. They are where your average life lives or dies. They are where you choose every single day who you actually are. Choose the extraordinary version. Not because it is easy, because you are done with easy. Because you have been living below your capacity for long enough and something in you has finally had enough of it. Because the average life was never yours to begin with. It was just the default. And you are not a default person. You never were. Now go prove it. If these lessons landed for you, if something shifted in how you see yourself and the life you are capable of building, subscribe to this channel right now. Every single video we create is designed to challenge you, elevate you, and give you the kind of wisdom that actually produces change. Not just inspiration that fades by morning. Real transformation rooted in the oldest and most proven philosophy on Earth. Subscribe, share this with someone who is ready to stop being average, and we will see you in the next one. Your extraordinary life is waiting, and it has been waiting long enough.